it's that piece of equipment, so when something tricky to turn on, wow, what is this? Yeah, I wasn't expecting that.
Since it's a two-seater, we have the seats go back far in there, and this steering is adjustable. It's surprising now, good lot of room for a large person. My buddy is a bit 6 inches taller than I am, taller shoulder than I am. That was fine.
Just it's 6'2".
Well, it's 10:30, so I should probably get started. I wish there was a red light on that camera so you would know when it was recording, but I'll trust that it is recording. My name is Rich McHugh, and I'm going to be talking about reading the law school computer labs and reading the law school in general in terms of technology. I work at the University of Victoria. This is our campus. It actually looks prettier on my screen than that one, but this black hole down at the bottom here is actually a building surrounded by trees, which is our law building. And that big, beautiful mountain up there that looks sort of like Mount Fuji in Japan, that's actually Mount Baker in the United States, and those islands are all the San Juan Islands from the United States. So I'm Canadian, but live very close to the U.S. I'm a Microsoft, a Linux, and a Mac Systems Administrator. I have a Bachelor of Commerce degree from the University of Victoria, and in the interest of full disclosure, you should all know that I do not have a law degree. Although I do have 2 brothers with law degrees, but I try not to hold that against them. So I don't know if you were like me, but when I was younger, I wanted to be a superhero as I was growing up. And while I can't promise you that you will be a superhero after the session, I'll try to give you some tools so that you can be at least a hero in your organization. At the very least, you'll be able to save your law school a significant amount of money and reduce your law school's burden on the environment at the same time. All starting in the computer lab by reducing energy consumption. So I found that there are 3 key things that are very helpful in reducing energy consumption. The first thing is to measure absolutely everything. If you can't measure how much energy you're using, how can you tell if you've saved any? So the first thing is to measure absolutely everything. Second thing is to implement changes where you have the power to do so. We're not deans or the dean of our law school, so we can't implement it everywhere, but we can implement it in our domain. And for myself, the easiest place to implement was the computer lab. So that's where I've started. And then lastly, educate. Once people know how much they can save and how they can save and reduce their energy consumption, most people are more than willing to do so. Once they realize the impact they can have by doing some very simple things. So we'll start off with measuring. How many here know how much electricity their computer labs use? Okay, up until about 6 months ago, I was exactly the same as you. I had no idea how much. I used some electricity, but how much I really didn't know. I know now that before we made changes in our computer lab, it cost only about $7 a day to run the lab. We have 42 computers in the lab, and then 42 computers total is in the lab and public access workstations combined. So $7 a day isn't too bad. And that's running those computers 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. $7 doesn't sound like much, but that adds up to about $2,500 a year, which is significant. Almost enough to pay for my CALI trip, actually. So just so we can be all speaking the same language, the kilowatt hours is what electricity is typically measured in. And to put that into layman's terms, a kilowatt hour is 1,000 watts per hour. And to make it concrete, that's like a 100-watt light bulb for 10 hours equals 1 kilowatt hour. So the next thing we need to know is how much electricity costs, and that varies widely across the United States. We have a low of about 6 or 7 cents in Washington State, which is about the same where I come from, just north of Washington State, to a high of 27, 28 cents a kilowatt hour in Hawaii, where they use diesel to generate most of their electricity there. On an average, so Pennsylvania is what we're going to use today. It's about 12 cents an hour. I think the average across the whole U.S. is about 11 cents a kilowatt hour. So running our 100-watt light bulb for 10 hours costs about 12 cents, which isn't too bad. So how do we measure things? Actually, I'll pass this around in a minute, but this is called a kilowatt. You can see a bigger version of it up there. But basically this, you plug this into your electrical outlet and you plug something else into it, and it will tell you exactly how much it's using. It gives you a bunch of other information with the buttons there, but the little watt button in the middle is the one you press that, and it'll tell you what the electrical draw is in kilowatt hours. Also measure it over time. So if you're, for example, a printer, in sleep mode, it only uses 1 or 2 watts. But when it actually prints, it goes up to about 1,000 to 1,500 watts. So something like that, you're going to want to plug your kilowatt in for a couple of days and measure the total usage over those 2 days, rather than just looking at it at a point in time. This is how we measure individual things, computers. When I'm measuring for a computer, I'll plug this into the wall and then plug a power bar into it so I can measure the monitor as well as the CPU. Very simple, very easy to use, and we can be purchased on Amazon for about 20 bucks. So they're not that expensive. And I don't know if you can read it, it's Kilowatt, K-I-L-L space A space W-A-T-T. So I measured some things before coming here just to give you some samples of what things use. We've got in our computer lab some 1-year-old Dell Optiplex 760s. And running 24/7, it costs about 25 cents a day per computer, which isn't bad, but it's about $93 over the course of the year. To put that in comparison, my new 27-inch iMac on my desk, it's a beautiful computer. It uses about 24 cents a day and about $86 a year. But actually, I'd like to add one little thing. That's putting the brightness at 50%. If you put it up to 100%, it actually uses almost 50% more power. So you're using about $120 a year if you have it at max brightness, which isn't intuitive. It's something I wouldn't have guessed, but cranking up the brightness on a screen, on that particular screen in any case, can increase power consumption dramatically. So next is our laptop. We've got 6 or 7 loaner laptops for students that are Dell E5400s. And they come in about 6 cents a day, which is a quarter of what the desktop computers use. So significantly less power usage by most laptops. And that works out to $23 a year. MacBook Pro 13-inch comes in a little bit under that, not a lot, about 5 cents a day or $19 a year. So considerably less power consumption out of the laptops than desktop computers. And our lightweight champion coming in here at the end, the iPad, it costs about a penny a day, or $4 a year. An iPad uses about 4 watts, to put that into comparison, whereas the iMac, the 27 iMac, uses about 82 watts. So I've got a nice graph here to show you the different power consumption, just so you can see them all relative. We've got our iPad down here. MacBook Air is probably the sort of the most economical in terms of electrical usage laptop I've seen. We've got the MacBook Pro. We've got a lead down here, which is interesting because if you look up here at the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, they draw 10 times as much power, which I suspect that they drew more power, but 10 times as much power. We've got our Dell Latitude, we've got our 27-inch iMac up here, we've got our Dell Optiplex, we've got a 46 LCD, HLCD TV, and then the Xbox. So while I'm sitting at my iPad surfing the web and my kids are down in the basement playing Xbox on a 46-inch TV, I'm using 4 watts. And they're using 325 to 350 watts, which I wouldn't have guessed there would be that big of a disparity. But once we measure things, we know, and we can adjust accordingly. Here's a beautiful law school. I don't know if any of you recognize this. This is Emory. I couldn't find a good shot of my
I was
own
going to
law
say, that's my law school, but thank you.
It was one of the first that came up when I did Google. So the Kilowatt is great for measuring individual appliances, but it won't give us a sense of what the whole building is doing, obviously. And that can be important. Studies have shown that when people in their households are able to monitor their energy usage in real time, energy consumption drops by about 20%. I don't think it would be that big a drop with an institutional building. But there are devices out like this called the Energy Detective. This is a home version, but they're coming out with institutional versions that you can hook up to your electrical system so that you can read in real time how much electricity is being used in the building or on a particular circuit breaker box, depending on how it's been set up. And it's not that hard to set up. We have one of these in our home. It sits in the kitchen there, and we can see exactly how much power is being used in our home at a particular point in time.
Richard, this thing then does not have to be wired in before the main breaker, or?
Very good question. So this is the hardware that comes with it, and that I was getting to that. So this is the reading box. These things here, most of you probably aren't going to do this on your own. You get your facility people to do this, but they're typically, in a house, there's typically 2 wires that go into your circuit box, and these 2 loops unlock, and then you hook them around the wires. And you have a 50% chance of getting it right the first time. I can tell you that. And if it isn't right, you'll get all sorts of funny numbers on this. In which case, you just unplug them and switch them, and then it's right. So this goes into this little black box that actually sits in your circuit breaker box. And this plugs into a circuit breaker. You can, on its own or in another one. And this measures the data. There's some magic that happens in here. And then the data is transferred to this box, which is just plugged into an electrical outlet, and it does it over the power line, interestingly enough. And then this is a Cat5 cable coming out of that. And you just plug it into a switch or a router, or if there's a data port nearby. And there's a web server built into this thing, believe it or not. And this is the heads-up display panel that it generates for you. You get it at an IP address, and this is what it'll tell you. This is the live dashboard, so this is a fancier version of that little grid panel that you saw before. And it gives you all sorts of real-time information, more than you probably want to know. But there's also a historical tab, so you can see usage over time. And you can put in your price for electricity, so it'll tell you how much you're using, how much you've saved past, relative to last year, for example, so you can track your usage, which is wonderful. You also have the option of sending, it doesn't do this by default, but you can send your data to Google Power Meter, which is a free service that Google offers. So that on my iPad or my iPhone, I can see what power is being used in my home. It's my wife thinks I'm crazy, of course, but I probably am.
Call home and tell the kids to turn the Xbox off.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned, but I can tell when they get home and turn the Xbox. I can tell if they've come home and if they've gone out to play, or if someone has turned on the Xbox.
There's measurements for the Xbox you had earlier. Was that for just the Xbox or the Xbox and the television?
That was just the Xbox. So you got to add those 2 big bars up.
And the Optiplex 760 was just the CPU, or the CPU and the monitor?
And the monitor, the 22-inch monitor.
So it was twice as much as the Optiplex.
Yeah.
Without the monitor factored in on the Xbox. That's considerable.
No, No, I should mention that yesterday or the day before, I saw that Microsoft is coming out with a new Xbox that uses about 1/3 less power. And I think the PlayStation 3, they have a newer model that uses about 1/3 less too. But even still, it's still a significant amount of electricity, and more than you get out of it.
And it's guaranteed not to have the red ring of death because they changed the color.
And they made it a little smaller.
I just realized my electric bill went up about $60. My husband's been playing some new video game for the past month.
There you go.
That I'm going home and telling you, that's
And
it.
then you part-time job, you get lots.
You buy your Kilowatt, and then you can give them, hard numbers on it.
Yes.
No, and like I said, if people, I had no idea. I knew that, I intuitively knew the Xbox probably used, because we have a Wii as well, and it doesn't get used very much, and I intuitively knew it used a bit more, but I never would have guessed it 10 times more. So measure everything. If you haven't measured it, you got an idea, but you don't really know. Another big power consumption in our law building is in all of our classrooms we have 2 projectors because we have document cameras, so they can put their PowerPoint on one and document camera on the other. Not everyone does that, of course. But one thing we've encouraged the professors to do, if they're just using PowerPoint, just turn on one of the displays, because these things use a ton of electricity.
I light bulbs.
Right, the light bulb.
Yeah.
And landfill, there's probably mercury in those bulbs.
Yeah. I've got to get up there and actually plug one in to see how much they use, but I'm sure it's over 1,000 watts.
I wonder what it is idle. It's probably going to draw idle too.
Yeah, the idle draws usually are pretty good on most power smart equipment nowadays, usually a watt or less. I didn't put this in here, but the Dell laptop used about a quarter of a watt or a half a watt when it was turned off. The Mac was a little bit less. It was a tenth of a watt or something like that. They do have a small draw.
Just topping off the battery.
Yeah, well, that's after they top off the battery. I've had them fully charged. So adding power bars to everything will save you a little bit of electricity, but we'll get to that in a second. Actually, I think it's right now. So the next step, after we've measured everything, we need to implement. And the biggest and the easiest thing to do is to use the off button. Just turning things off. We had a patch management system a few years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, that at the time it seemed easiest just to have everything turned on 24/7, which we don't use anymore. But we told the faculty and staff, please leave your computers on. So they've done what they've been told. They've been leaving their computers on 27. Our computer lab is left on 24/7. But we can reduce the power consumption by our computers in the building by 60 to 70% by just turning them off at night. So it's not difficult to do, but it's a simple thing that can go a long ways. We could have them turn off their power bar as well and save that half watt, which would, save a little bit, but getting them to turn their computers off is going to save vastly more energy than turning off their power bar, for example. So we'll ask them to turn off, which we've done, of course. So the next level of saving would be to enable the power saving options. And with Windows XP, it was flaky enough with some of the programs that we use that I didn't enable them at all. And it may have just been the programs we were using. But with Windows Vista and Windows 7, it seems to be much more reliable. So we've been turning that on and encouraging the faculty and staff to not disable them unless they've got problems. We want them to be productive, of course, but if they can live with the power saving features enabled and not lose significant power activity, then that's what we're encouraging them to do. And the thing that I posted on Technoids a while ago was turning off our computer lab. And if you use Ghost, I don't use it myself, but there are some nice features built in for programmatic, or not programmatically, but you can go into a dashboard and the Ghost server will tell you your ghosted computers to turn off at night and then to wake back up. We don't use Ghost, so we've gone with the no-cost solution, which is using the scheduling task wizard and this line of code down here, which hopefully you can see. It's basically, this is the shutdown program called shutdown.exe. I can't remember what the -S stands for, but it is important. I think it's
Shut down.
Yeah.
I mean, it means to actually shut it down, because if you don't include that, you get the interactive
Gotcha.
prompt
Silent.
with some options, because you can read it.
Yeah.
I think it's silent, so that it doesn't require a user interaction.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So anyways, we set up this is on all our lab computers. Before we re-imaged, we added an automatic scheduled task to run it. I think it's 10:20 every night because our library doesn't stay open later than 10 p.m. So at 10:20 every night, it runs this job, which shuts all the computers down. Then in the morning, we actually don't turn our computers on in the morning. We have our students do that. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But we do leave it on one night a week. I think it's Tuesday or Wednesday. And that's when we have our Windows update scheduled to do its thing and to download virus definitions. So our library staff actually go in there at the end of the day on that night, which it is, turn all the computers on so that they'll download their Windows updates and be fully patched. So a nice trade-off. It gets shut down most of the time. The other thing we've done, which is an important key, is make sure we're buying Energy Star equipment, which most equipment is nowadays. We're also, when we're evaluating equipment, we're not only looking at, we look at price, of course, we look at how good the service is, but another criteria we're adding is how much power usage. So if we're evaluating, say 2 Dell computers, and one maybe costs a little bit more, but it's going to save power, electricity, we can do the math on that and see if we're going to be saving money over the life of the equipment. And if it is, we'll pay the, $20 or $30 more to get the more energy efficient equipment. And the last thing we're doing on the implementation and the end of things is virtualizing our servers. We haven't gone out and just virtualized everything all at once. As the servers reach their end of life, instead of buying a new piece of hardware to replace them, we're buying a VMware instance through our CALI campus systems and then setting up a new server on it. In some cases, we've just dumped the image over there, which is handy as well. But virtualizing can save a lot of money. And in the setup that our campus systems people have, I think it's probably more reliable too, because they have quite an elaborate redundancy infrastructure that's quite reliable. Okay. So educate. That's the last of the 3 things that I'm going to talk about. Now, people can't make good decisions unless they have good information. And I'll just bring an example from home. Probably 7 or 8 years ago, we replaced all of our light bulbs with the compact fluorescent to save electricity. We didn't do it all at once, but as the old bulbs burnt out, we replaced them with compact fluorescent. Back then, they cost a little bit more, but we wanted to save electricity. I have no idea how much electricity we were going to save, but this was a 100-watt or a 60-watt bulb, and we were replacing it with a 14 or 18 watts. So we were reducing our consumption by 2/3, 3/4, something like that. What I didn't realize at the time is that this beast here is what was really using all the power in the house, our electrical water heater. Now, in my state or province, electricity is quite inexpensive. It's about 6.5 cents per kilowatt hour. So it actually makes sense to use electricity where we are to heat our. But whenever that thing goes on, I now know our energy usage in our house spikes up to 4,000 watts immediately. And if someone's taking a shower, it stays at 4,000 watts for the length of the shower plus a period of time after that to finish reheating all the water. Now, we put a lot of time and energy into nagging the kids, turn off the lights. Where, if one of our kids had taken a shower that was, instead of 20 minutes, 10 minutes, a couple times a year, we would have saved as much electricity as all those bulbs that we saved with all those bulbs. So now we know, I'm not caring so much about the lights anymore. I'm caring about the, kids in the shower, which actually, my oldest is 15, so he's just discovered the virtues of showering on a regular basis. So it's become an issue really recently. But it's been a couple of years, I guess. But I'm telling you, we want you to be clean, but don't just sit in the shower. Get in, get yourself clean, wash your hair, but you should be able to do it in less than 10 minutes. Anyways, So we need to educate, and we need to start by educating ourselves and then helping people around us know what is going on. Probably a bigger deal in the southern states would be air conditioning. I suspect that's going to be a big one.
Yeah, I was just going to say, put the picture of Emory Law School up while I was up here. The dean made an announcement that we are now going to shut down our HVAC in that big old ugly building from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., which will save 400,000 kilowatt hours each year, blah, 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 blah. It'll save us $30,000 a year. So putting the labs on a timer is a great thing for me and my 22 computers because we reduce the size of our lab. But turning off the AC from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning,
It's going to be huge.
that's a big change.
Exactly.
Now, that's the water heater.
Exactly.
Do your
Now,
server rooms have full
We're
lights
on,
going?
one building is exempt from these requirements, and that's the one where my servers are. And the library, for librarians who happen to be here, because we need to control the temperatures for the books.
Yeah, you don't want the big swings for the books.
Right.
But that's a great example. In my case here, in an institutional perspective, I don't have the power to shut down actually, you don't have air conditioning in our building because it's cool enough. But I don't have the power to do that. I do have power with the computer lab, so that's where I've started. But that's wonderful that, because that makes a huge difference, much more than the computer lab.
Politically, that was a very difficult thing to do.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Even
which is
overnight?
bizarre. No one is actually in the building at 11, but they might want to be in the building at 11.
But it's not cool when they come in the morning.
Well, that's probably
Because
it,
you've
because
got,
as it
you've got
cools
some
down.
thermal inertia you have to overcome in the morning to get it cool enough by the time they walk in the door. So usually the first hour or so people are in, it's less than optimal comfort.
People will have an excuse to come in late now.
Well, they're turning it back on at 6 in the morning.
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
It still takes a while for proper, in the worst months, it still takes a while for that to overcome the
no, it'll be
heat.
interesting. This is a big change for us.
Oh, good for them. So education, and going back to our,
That's what it'll be like.
there we go. Going back to our graph here, you mentioned the Xbox. You add up the Xbox plus the TV, and you've got something off the chart here relative to everything else. In the case of Southern universities, the air conditioning is going to be the equivalent to the Xbox. And I'm sure facilities knows how much they use, but if everyone had a better idea of how much they use, and it sounds like the Emory Dean is doing a good job of communicating, $30,000, that's a significant amount of money that can go into other things now.
I guess the question is, how are you turning on? Physically, or?
No, all of our HVAC systems are all computer driven now. I mean, that's actually a significant amount of our traffic these days is all controlled traffic for HVAC.
Actually, I even do that in our home. We turn down the heat in the wintertime between, I think it's like 10:30, 11 o'clock to 6 in the morning. And then it just comes back on. It was like a $40 bill thing with the law. It's
The programmable thermostat,
So it's not rocket science anymore. Now, visibility is the other thing, and this could be something that, I know we want to do it in our building. I'm still in negotiations with our facilities management to actually measure our electrical consumption in real time. But here's the Google Power Meter thing, so you can see over the course of the day, this is the morning time, so we've got showers going on here. And you can see it's dramatic. I was surprised that, okay, everyone's awake and there's a shower happening. Not sure what this is here. What day was that? That was a Friday. My wife was home because there's consumption all day. You can tell when people are out of the building, or out of the building, at the house. So here's the home on Saturday. And you can tell here the jump between there and there, that's the Xbox coming on. Like I know that, I can recognize that as the Xbox coming on. Now there may be other things that mask that, like maybe my wife is baking some cookies Keys or dinner starts up at 3 o'clock almost every day. Spike up, and that's the Xbox coming up. So, while I've been away, I've been able to sort of keep my things back. And like I said before, just by looking, by being able to have this visible, power consumption drops by about 20% in the household. And I'm hoping that it'll be something close to that for the building. So once we're able to measure in real time, I'm hoping we can have, sort of if you've got a dashboardy type thing for your law school, this can be one of the things that goes on in a compact form, so that people are aware of it and it has a bit of mind share. And it's not that difficult. You can get down here, you've got comparison to the same day last week, so you can see, okay, this week we're using more than last week, and maybe the temperature's gone up, so that's why we're using more of the ACs happening.
Did you mention how much the energy detective system costs?
Yeah, it's about, it's not cheap, it's about $180, $190. But if you figure for a home, you're going to, save 20%, approximately 20% of your electricity. The payback isn't that, it's a year or less, depending on how much you use it.
And then there's the cool factor.
Yeah, there's the cool factor. Well, there's the geek factor.
Yeah. This group, it's the same thing.
That's true. I say cool, my wife says geeks. So the next step is actually letting people know. So when we made these changes to our computer lab, we wanted to communicate what we were doing to the students so that they would know why the computers weren't on in the morning when they got into the computer lab. And in general, we wanted to use this as an educational opportunity for faculty and staff, as well as let them know what we were doing. So we sent them out an email letting them know that we were turning off the computers at night, letting them know how much we anticipated we'd save in terms of energy and dollars saved. And then we gave them a few tips to let them know what they could do themselves if they wanted to do some energy conservation in their own offices. And we didn't want to give them a list of 20 things to do. We wanted to make it simple. We limited it to 3 things that would have the highest impact. And I suspect that if they did these 3 things, they would save 90% or more of all of the power that they could possibly save by modifying their computer behavior. So the first thing and the biggest thing is shut down every night. We told them to turn them on, leave them on. They were doing what they were told. We let them know that it was okay to shut down at night. The second thing was to enable power management features on their computer, which hadn't been enabled in the past. We gave them some instructions on how to do that, a link to a web page that would show them how to do that, and offered to come and give them a hand if they were having any problems doing that themselves. And the last thing was let them know that using a laptop uses a quarter less power. So if they had a choice and it wasn't a big deal, just use your laptop because you're going to be using less power if you're a quarter of the power if you use your laptop. And which may have possible ramifications for purchasing computers next time around when they're out to get a new computer, because maybe they'll make the choice at that point to get a laptop and potentially a second monitor rather than a full desktop computer. So we'll see how that pans out in the future, but at least they've got the information and can make the decision for themselves. We don't want to make them less productive, of course, but they have the information they need to make a good decision. And the last thing is a good old-fashioned competition. There's nothing like pitting the law school against the business school in terms of reducing energy consumption. And there's good-natured competition can get people to focus in a manner that's hard to do in any other way. I think for some people it's just a personality type. But if you say, okay, the law school's challenging the business school to, over the course of 6 months to see who could reduce their energy consumption by the most, 10% or something like that. It can be a good-natured competition that you can promote within the organization. If you're measuring your, in real time, you can sort of show where they're at, relatively speaking, and have a good-natured competition. I I just wouldn't let the business school set the ground rules. You want to have the rules set before you go to them, just to, they'll try to do an Enron or something like that, fudge the numbers. So lastly, while there's not a direct link between electricity usage and what's happening in the Gulf, obviously, if we do use electricity of all, use less energy of all forms, including electricity, I'm hoping we're not going to have to drill for oil in these dangerous locations or import it from not so friendly people, friendly sources. So, with that, are there any other comments or questions?
Yeah, you said you tested the Mac and you changed the brightness to about half.
Yeah.
Did you try that on any of the other computers? Because I have a Mac, hubby has a PC, and so I'm going to try that with my Mac and see where my setting is. But I'm kind of wondering if you tried that with any of the other.
Yeah, and when I was doing I discovered that, and I went back and redid some measurements because of that, and it was the same. It wasn't as dramatic with the particular Dell monitor we had hooked up to our 760, our Optiplex 760, but it was significant. It was 20 watts or so. But it was more dramatic on the iMac for whatever reason. But I actually didn't ever have mine set it up at 100%, just because it was like retina burning right almost. But about 40, 50% was where it was comfortable in my eyes, and that's where it got down to. Instead of 140 watts, it was down to pretty much 80 watts.
Just a comment, I'm experimenting with some technology. There's a product out there called Pana Logic, P-A-N-O Logic, and it's basically a thin client that connects back to a VMware server, runs a virtual instance of your desktop, but the box is just the monitor, the keyboard, the network, and all that.
Yeah.
It's only supposed to draw 3 watts.
Oh, really?
And I'm looking to see if that is a viable option to, when we redo our one computer teaching lab, if I can put these terminals in there, which also means that I can have this class connect to this virtual instance with this software on it, and then the next class connect to this virtual instance with this. I mean, the server draws all the electricity, but still overall, it's not nearly as much than 27, 30 computers in the lab. Now I have to throw a server in the mix, but I think the savings should be great. And I have an instance, all this electricity drawing on the computers, you're also adding BTUs into the air, and your heating and cooling costs go up, and there's a direct relationship. But I have a new conference room I'm setting up, and thermals are an issue because it's kind of in this cabinet that wasn't designed with ventilation, and I'm putting a Mac Mini in there even though I'm going to put Windows on it, and that's, I think it's 10 watt draw. I'm not sure where it peaks at. I have to plug the Kilowatt into it to see what it peaks at when I throw something heavy at it, but it's only supposed to be like 10 watts compared to 100 plus on a PC running at a normal operating state.
Well, that sounds about right, because it's basically all laptop components in there. So.
It's designed like a laptop, but the form factor is a desktop. Then you have to factor in the monitor. It's driving a 55-inch plasma in that conference room, but I can't get away with that. It's going to be that big a screen no matter what I hook to it.
Well, actually, you probably already got the hardware for the monitor, but the LCDs, that 46-inch draws a lot of power. The plasmas draw considerably more.
I have a media services guy who is plasma. And I'm like, LCD.
The colors are better, but I think for most regular people, they won't be able to tell the difference. Like someone who's really into that will be able to, but I'm like, I don't care for plasma. There's much more variety out there in LCD, but that aside, there's still a big monitor that's being driven in that room, but that's in all cases. But I can affect the PC that is the workstation. Plus, I get the benefit. Well, now we can reboot it. We can boot camp it and boot it up in Mac mode for Mac users.
I was going to mention if anybody uses lab stats to manage your labs, you get stats on your labs or anything like that. They have something called Juice Press, which is an add-on to lab stats, which will both monitor power usage and then also has some pretty sophisticated power scheduling abilities built in. We've not needed to do that, but we do use lab stats. Lab stats draws nice maps of your labs, by the way. I mean, it allows you to create maps of your labs that show what machines are in use, what are available, what are down. It's not expensive, and it's a quick way to add a little pizzazz to your internal lab page.
Yeah, so you can know if there's going to be a machine there when they...
Exactly, and then they've built some add-ons to it, and Juice Press is one of them.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, if there's no questions, then more questions, then thank you very much.
Well, I'm just really excited. I just got the panel Optiplex. They're like a brick, and they're heavy, and I can run the monitors off them too, which is interesting. I can plug flash keys into them and access that with the virtual machine. Yes, I
Sorry, I missed you. I just quick.
Yeah, ages since you guys don't know the conference.
And
Lots of running around.
so, but now that I know what it is, you know, I want to.
Running back, you got to look at things like
Exactly.
Well, it's just drawn, I haven't put it up online. Well, there will be kilowatts.
You're aware of the history, right? That it was that.
Yeah, that model.
I have to give
You hosted it for
so
years.
that's why.
And,
My train is at
yeah.
7:55.
But, no, that's.
And where are you going to?
Trio, the unique position of having an IT there. And we got lots of nice engineering
You can get a,
expertise
like,
there.
I don't know, if people don't try it, you can actually for $1.25, you can go to the other side and do the train.
Oh, yeah.
Have you travel?
It was
that's
actually
actually
shocking to me that they
Penn
ironed
Station.
out everything required to get the HVAC shut.
No, this is,
That's a big deal. But we're fortunate, unlike the way you guys are building.
There's a train
Yeah,
station.
we have a separate library joined with the company.
Okay, but where is your friend you are?
So we got the library building,
But I thought
which
this
has the
one-
IT equipment and all that. So we just leave the library
One goes
on
from here.
and shut.
Oh,
off the
yeah,
power
you've got to
to
change
the
the
train building.
Oh, you have.
You have to switch trains and track, and then it'll take you near.
Oh, okay, how is it, like the Saturday schedule is good?
I'm actually going to live in New York City, and so spend a couple hours.
Oh,
I've never been in Europe, and
It's not the labs that we use. It's very helpful to me because we have reduced the.
I didn't
we had
know, like,
two
it was so
labs. We
close.
reduced to
Yeah,
one.
no, it's an hour.
I'm trying to get a sense.
From here to New York City, it's an hour.
Is it?
We're 10 minutes.
By train?
Get a sense of usage. And we
Yeah, we
have
have
100%.
Had I known, maybe I'd have taken
100% of
extra
them
day
have
and.
smartphones. I mean, really, almost all of our students
That
have
house.
tablets.
So I was, when we were in Chicago,
The question is,
how much longer? It took me at least an hour to get out to the airport from downtown Chicago. Like, it took me over an hour to get from the conference out to the airport.
By train?
No, just by, it was one of those van.
Oh, the shuttle service?
Yeah, it was crazy traffic.
Yes. Chicago now I know like a pro, I take the train. I don't know that you know, because when they started from which year you
We use a
started going to
MacBook
Cali?
exam software. We use like on Fluid.
Also, you started
So I had that issue.
So,
When I lost the one
like
lab,
they
what I
had,
did do
Chicago
was I
3-4
used that
times
as
at
an
least.
excuse to
So,
buy 13 Dell
usually
laptops.
what
No, sorry, 2003.
And that's my mobile
Yeah, I
lab
started-
for exams. So if students have problems with the exam
So I think
software,
before you joined, they
we
would have
can
had
deploy 10. We
Earlier, the
our-
policy was
our backup
every 2 or 3
space
years
on
at Chicago,
Campbell 10.
because that was
That's
the
not
case.
something we have to
Now I
do.
think they're having it every year.
And
Did
so
they announce
that's
where
how
they
we
will have it next year?
deal with
I don't think
students
so.
with these
I
last
heard that they,
Yeah.
probably the last session.
Yes.
I came to for lunch.
Right.
So you have brought the bag and everything?
No, I checked out this morning, but just left my bag in my hotel.
They are.
So you go back to the hotel.
So I'll go back to the hotel, grab my bag, and then just take
Plus, we
the
have
subway up to the.
added bonus for us,
Yeah.
especially
Catch the
lab
lab.
not being, that secondary lab is not being used very much.
Yeah.
For labs, it's a lot of money. We have some better security.
Yesterday,
I mean,
I raised
they are in the mobile card once a month, or once every few months, or however often.
Oh, yeah. they
So
will.
I took a day pass, it's almost, I killed 2.5 hours, 3 hours on the train.
Okay.
Oh, really?
You go on the blue line all the way to the Frankfurt center.
Yeah.
Then you
I'm always
recognize 40 minutes bus ride.
That would be.
But then I thought, the prices will be cheaper, like that.
And welcome to your first. Oh, no, they're a lot.
That's frustrating.
They are, I think there are a lot of companies.
I asked, like, you have to talk to a local to see where the deals are.
So far. The other ones.
You must be an engineer and not a lawyer.
Yes.
It tends towards the tech side.
Right, because I'm an engineer and then I have I'm a chemical engineer, computer science masters and an MBA.
So where is the final session?
Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you too.
Do you know where the final session is?
See, I knew that was a mistake. This is going to go off. Yeah, sure for my cell phone. No, this is that stupid monkey.
Well, I put mine in my suitcase. I hope they don't
Good
shoot
presentation.
it.
Are you going to post me a slide from?
Yeah, I will. I haven't done yet, but I will.
For a fee, they'll give it to you now.
No. I think I'll wait until you post them.
11:30 to 12:30. The closing plenary is in 207. 207. So up a floor.
Yeah, this numbering system.
No, because the things are older.